Hi, my name is Zara Hoffman. I'm the founder of Inimitable Books, a small publishing company dedicated to uplifting marginalized voices without pigeonholing authors into writing about their trauma. And I was scrolling through Instagram and found this Instagram account, which does a lot of skits about British versus French work-life balance and routines. And I thought that I should try the French routine because I've always been a little bit of a workaholic, and since losing Riley, I definitely needed a routine reset. So I initially thought this one video was going to be every single day of a single week, and it turns out that I had way too much footage to be able to do that. So please enjoy the first of multiple vlogs of my experiment with this French routine. I will leave some of the actual Instagram reels that inspired me in the description down below. It is June 29th, 7 a.m. and I'm trying a new schedule. That means I'm waking up an hour earlier than I'm used to, and I'm already regretting it. Here you can see me making my bed. I've sped up the clip even though it was only a little bit over 1 minute long. This is something that I have constantly tried to do consistently over the years, and normally do it consistently for about a week and then fall off, but I am trying to make it part of my new routine with this experiment. So let's see how long that lasts. I am recording this as of the second day, and I did make my bed again today, so here's hoping that continues. So here you can see me doing my physical therapy exercises. I'm supposed to do them every other day, and in all honesty, I wasn't doing that to begin with. I was doing it about 3 times a week. And not necessarily every other day, so the consistency was off. Sometimes I only did it twice a week. But any fitness routine that I was trying to build or trying to get back to definitely fell by the wayside when Riley got her bad news first from the specialist, and then 2 weeks later from her normal vet. And then the day after we got that news is when my mom and I said our final goodbye to Riley. So today was hard with the physical therapy. I was very clearly out of shape. I'd been eating sugar a lot to cope, in addition to crocheting a ton, and it took me longer than I wanted it to, and this is actually just at 50% sped up, so you can get a little bit better of an idea of how long it was taking me compared to when I've shown myself doing physical therapy in past vlogs where I really speed it up. And this is only the first 2 sets of different exercises, because by the end of this clip I was really wondering if I was going to be able to do the 3rd set required by my physical therapist. She's actually not around anymore to get on my case if I don't, but I knew that I needed to do it correctly, because otherwise, what's the point? I am getting stronger, it has been working, and so this is me recommitting to that physical therapy routine. I don't have to do it every day. Again, like I said, I'm supposed to alternate that with the treadmill, but this is it. Here are 2 sets of me doing my heel raises where I go up on my tiptoes, and then I also have to rock back, which you see me doing here, where I am lifting my toes off the ground, which is why I look like I'm moving backwards each time, because I am. And I had more footage of me doing the third set of these 2 exercises, but for some reason it looked like I was barely moving in that footage. So please note that I did do the 3rd set that I was supposed to. You're just not going to see it in this vlog. During the previous 2 exercises, my thighs had a little bit more of a break, so that was what allowed me to talk myself into doing the 3rd set of the first set of exercises that you saw me do, and that is being done here. I have sped this one up more than by 50% because you get the idea. But yeah, I did the whole thing. I really am pleased that I did, but it was definitely hard. And while that whole thing felt like a lifetime, I was basically just over 11 minutes. So this is me bullet journaling and checking the Forest app so I properly time track in my bullet journal. I use this thing called a chronodex so I can track all 24 hours in a day. I have a color-coded system, and this in total took me about 2.5 minutes. I had changed after my workout and am getting ready to try writing for the first time in weeks. So here I am setting up my Forest app to count up the amount of time that I'm spending working on my author stuff. It is because I had an hour and a half to spare before I needed to start work at 9:30, and I had no idea how long I'd be working on my author stuff. Also, I'm drinking Snapple because Jessica Brody said that you need to have a drink that you associate with writing. I haven't touched this story in about a month, which was when I had done my Romancing the Beat outline for this novel, which is my own story and is not associated with Inimitable books in any way. But I had done the Romancing the Beat outline, and then I was putting my own personal outline where I had gone chapter by chapter without any real structure aside from what I inherently know into that. And then Riley's health took a turn, so I stopped doing that. And in that interim, I've read page 1 to done, and so I am filling in that outline. I had done a lot of the plot stuff early on, and then for some reason, I was really stressed, obviously, during Riley's last weeks of life, but I kept procrastinating on doing the rest of the character bios, and here is me finishing them in what was 5 minutes. Here is a better shot of my screen. I have 2 windows open of ellipsis. I decided to make the theme all pink and stuff, given I'm writing a romance. And here is my main character, and then main character 2, because I tend to write dual POV romances. I will be talking more about the book Page 1 to Done in another video, which I actually need to write the script for, as well as 2 videos that will come before it. But something I was having a problem with is that the problem, start and goal, character flaw, and emotional wound are all very tightly tied together, which makes sense. But the way she phrases it makes me feel that sometimes they overlap, and like I could literally write the same sentence 4 times. So I had to think of different ways to phrase it, because in my head I know how they all interact and how it's all kind of bundled together, but the point of it is to untangle it for her system. And yeah, I'm gonna do like little character sketches for their best friends now, because I only had in my bullet journal that I need to do there too, but now that I've like removed that block, I just want to keep going. Also, I have an hour and a half at the time of this filming to keep working on my stuff, so I'm going to take advantage of that because I haven't been working on my own stuff in forever. So, me filling out the character info for the main characters took about 5 minutes, but the rest of this was the remaining an hour and 25 minutes of my hour and a half total that I had for writing. The math of that might be a little bit wonky. I'm pretty sure there's a clip that says that I had an hour and 30 minutes after I had already done the main character info. But whatever. You can see me referencing my Scrivener. You can see me looking at some baby name pages that I had open because I was trying to name, at this point, tertiary character, but I am planning this to be a series of 4 interconnected standalones, as many contemporary romance series are. And so I was looking up that. I was deciding on the names. I had to make sure that I got them correct because I had also changed some of the names the last time I had worked on the story. Then there's me doing the Save the Cat Foundation beats, which are only 5 out of the 15, and checking in page 1 to done to make sure that I remember how she specifically defines them, because I had read Save the Cat Writes a Novel and Save the Cat Writes a Young Adult Novel around the time that each book came out, and it's been a few years for both of those, and I did reread them in order to make my videos on them, but in the moment of trying to stay in the flow of my own story, I wasn't sure I had fully remembered exactly what each plot point was supposed to be. And now I'm moving on to thinking of how I'm phrasing what the world building needs are and like my notes and things like that. I don't have a ton. This is where I tend to not fly by the seat of my pants, but it's definitely the thing that I fill in most during revisions is the world building, even more so than character stuff. So I was filling that in and then also copying and pasting headings because I was too lazy to retype everything again, because she has sections within the page 1 to done template where you fill stuff out that you know, and then there's a section for what don't you know for those sections, and so I had to do that. This is me logging into Instagram because I had to reference certain accounts that I was following when I was saying like, oh, this is where I'm going to go for research. And then you can see me continuing to work on that. And then here I have finally switched over to my manuscript. I had chapter 1 in ellipsis. I had written a version at the end or in the last quarter of 2025. And then I did rewrite the first chapter essentially after I did my Romancing the Beat outline. So not in the spirit of page 1 to done really, or fast drafting. I did edit that first chapter. I added in new words and I wasn't like tinkering with the words that existed already too much. But I just had to refamiliarize myself with what happened, and you can see me highlighting the words that I wrote because I forgot to bold them or to take note of the word count at the start. And if I had been doing Milwordy again, I would be counting the words that I wrote regardless of how many words I removed. But at the end, it doesn't really matter. I was able to count how many words I had written, and that is the point of the tracking in the page 1 to done app, which you will see me do later in this vlog. But there's just me writing all throughout the first chapter in different spots, and also starting the second chapter from scratch, even though I had also written a version of that in Scrivener last year. So this is me using the page 1 to done website. I went back and forth in the project setup, seeing if I could say an initial word count, but that is obviously against the idea of fast drafting. You can do it in TrackBear, which I'm also in, and I'm setting up a challenge within TrackBear to say how many words a day I should be writing. I let page 1 to done calculate for me, and it was essentially 500 words, so that's what I put into TrackBear. And then I went back into something in the romancing the beat outline, because there was a note I wanted to make for myself. And sorry, here is where I'm writing chapter 2. Earlier in the clip, it was still all chapter 1, my mistake. But yeah, one thing I do miss from Scrivener is being able to have different documents per thing, because the new draft and the branching that Ellipsis does is the whole document. It's not just part of a document. And if I were to do each new chapter as a new draft within the document, when I tried to merge them, it would erase everything, basically. They would all overwrite each other, I'm pretty sure. So hopefully I just use it as a nice word processor with a built-in timer that tells me my writing output for that timer. I actually didn't do this on this day, but I did it on day 2, which you will see. But yeah, this whole 7 or so minutes that you are watching here of me just typing on my computer was essentially an hour and a half, and I'm very proud of that. I just spent an hour and a half working on my own fiction. I got 759 words total across a 14-minute sprint and a 15-minute sprint. The 14-minute sprint only got me a little over 200 words. I was also deleting certain words and rewriting them because I had written chapter 1 a while ago and was just tweaking it, so that's not totally in the fast drafting spirit of page 1 to done. But I then, in 15 minutes, wrote the entire first scene of chapter 2, which is great. When looking back at my romancing the beat outline, I realized I forgot to do everything that I was supposed to do in chapter 1, but I think in the spirit of page 1 to done, that's going to have to be saved for the next draft, because story-wise, I'm really happy, or I guess I should say plot-wise, I'm really happy with what happens in chapter 1, and I'm have to percolate a little bit on how to introduce or hint at the reason that the main character isn't already having a love life and what's holding her back. And I think what else does it say? Hint at the character's need, not their want. But I was planning on doing that in the next chapter from her point of view, so I might not even have to go back and do that. I might be able to just keep going forward during my next writing session, which will be tomorrow. Here you can see me starting my workday. I started out with emails and replying to certain people, deleting other emails. My inbox is always incredibly full of newsletters. I got a submission, which is certainly taking up a lot of space in my inbox, an unsolicited submission, I should mention, from yet another agent, and I am going to have to respond to that, as well as just delete emails so that the domain space or disk space for the Inimitable Books domain doesn't reach capacity, because not only is our email hosted there, but so is our website. you can see me ordering our thriller books off of Barnes & Noble, even though I could order them directly from the Simon & Schuster warehouse at a discounted price, because, you know, if Barnes & Noble sees that people are ordering, they might order more copies, and because our company can afford to buy our copies at full price, I try to do this whenever I can. The copies being ordered will be for future Goodreads giveaways, and then you can see me starting to enter the information for the giveaway, but also messaging my authors about logistics and dates for when to run that giveaway. I ultimately decided at the author's request to hold off on scheduling the giveaways, but that is actually changing as of me recording this voiceover 2 days after having filmed this. I was not able to get all the editing for day 1 done on day 2 as I had initially planned. I have moved on to doing social media post approvals, as well as looking up whether the paperback for Grandma's Little Secret and the hardcover for A Shadow Dark and Daring have been put up on other book websites. At the time of this filming, Grandma's Little Secret is available for paperback purchase, but we are doing print on demand, and I was adding those to the Inimitable Books website, but also filling out an admin form for Simon & Schuster to let them know that there were certain problems on retailer sites. Lots of back and forth that happens and always seems to eat up my time in a day. This whole time lapse that you are seeing took 50 minutes, but watching it back makes me feel like I did nothing, even though I am literally looking at video proof to show that I did a lot of things. It is a strange feeling of knowing that I get a lot done, but when it's not what was on my task list at the start of the day, it always feels like I haven't done enough. Here you can see me working in our Shopify store. Regardless of my feelings on Shopify and Amazon, etc., we do need them to be successful as a small business, and this has been in the works for over a year at this point, from my first email with the warehouse that Simon & Schuster put me in touch with, because Simon & Schuster does not handle drop shipping themselves. But we will be offering signed hardcovers through this shop, and I have already run into problems with Instagram letting me tag all of our products, but that is an issue that is still unresolved, and I'm doing the best I can. So there were certain issues about the homepage showing the proper things, but I did ultimately figure that out, which is a relief. And you can now check out inimitablebooks.shop to go directly to the shop, or click on the signed books menu item from our website, Inimitable Books, to get here. And I encourage everyone to do that. It will also be linked in the description down below. So that was essentially my first hour of work for the day, and then I had a lot more to do because it was definitely not the end of the workday, even though by the end of this bit I was feeling a little bit tired. I had to do some little task, chores, whatever, around the apartment, and it has turned into like a 30-minute break. And the point of this is that I was supposed to work from 9:30 to noon, essentially without a break. I mean, like a little coffee break is allowed. I don't drink coffee, so that would have been like, you know, get another drink or whatever. You know, obviously bio breaks were human, but this is a much longer break than what was supposed to happen. And later today is also going to break the schedule. Because while I do have my Pilates during like the lunch period, which is 12 to 2, I'm then going to be going to a museum at 2 o'clock, well, leaving here at 2 o'clock, and that's going to take like 40 minutes. And then the exhibit is an hour and a half long. So today is definitely not the full like French workday in earnest, but I wanted to start today anyway so that I knew I could wake up at 7 a.m. and get stuff done. So yeah, I'm gonna get back to work now until noon, or at least until I need another brain break. I was able to work for an hour and a half on my writing without any breaks, and then I did 45 minutes of work, like I established earlier, which is more than a Pomodoro, which is normally when my brain needs a break. So I think maybe doing exercise in the morning has helped, which is really upsetting because now that means I'm probably going to do it. But it's also good motivation to do it. I need to stop yapping though and get back to work. This was another 50 minutes of work. I started by downloading the ebook from Simon & Schuster that they had generated for Beyond Ever After by Chantal Godoy, because they do allow distribution clients to upload their own ebooks, but every time I have tried to do that, there has been some sort of error in the file verification due to changing rules and accessibility rules. And honestly, it's easier for Inimitable Books and myself to pay a flat fee for the file generation and knowing that it will be accepted. In theory, I could learn how to do it myself, but it's just not really the best use of my time at this point. I did switch over to writing a script, and I am on YouTube grabbing links and referencing them within the video. I, at this point, did have the teleprompter app. I did at this point have the teleprompter app on transparent window mode because that's what I use when I film, and it wasn't too distracting, but I did the next day change it to be an opaque background just for my own sanity. Really, it was taking a visual toll on me, but I was able to write 2 scripts that I had been putting off for about 2 weeks. Maybe a little bit less. I'm not sure when I first floated the idea in Kate Kavanaugh's Twitch stream, but even then it was something that I had on my mind before I ever made it public in a brainstorming capacity. And so having completed those 2 scripts did make me feel like I should have done it a while ago, while also knowing that Riley's declining health took up a lot of emotional and cognitive brain space that I don't know that I was fully aware of at the time. But I did lose track of time. Well, I kind of misunderstood time as I was working on it. I was so focused on the French schedule of working up until noon that I forgot my Pilates session was at noon and required at least 10 minutes to walk. So I unfortunately did get there a little bit late, but my mom's Pilates session, which was right before me, was running just slightly late, so it did all work out, but I like to give myself more time. Thankfully, I have been much more cognizant of my schedule since this little mishap, but I am really proud that I got those 2 scripts done. Also, thank goodness for picture-in-picture, which you can see. I am watching old Kate Kavanaugh videos in the corner. I have mentioned, I think, in previous vlogs about how I like to have background noise, and whether it's a new video that I've never seen before or an old video that I don't necessarily know by heart because I no longer watch a CBS show since I now boycott that. That was, I think, the only show that I knew by heart. But there is something inspiring and comforting about Kate's old videos. I really should go through my other authors' YouTube videos as well, but sometimes those are work sprints, and as much as I like attending work sprints live or hosting them myself, I do find their timers distracting. Like I said, this was a 50-minute work period for me. It is not what I actually would have thought I was capable of doing if I had not vlogged it twice in a row in one day. But there is something to my being able to hyper focus and get a lot of things done, even if they're not all the things that are on my task list. Writing these scripts was, though, so that was an additional boost of serotonin for having accomplished those. I think I've been building up a lot of creativity while I've been in mourning and not working as much after Riley's passing. But also, I think there's something to knowing that normally there would be a stopping point at noon and you'd work up until noon was really helping me. This was my factor meal for lunch, which I ate after my Pilates session. I actually got a full hour, even though I didn't get home until 2:15, because my mom and I wound up leaving at 2:30 instead of 2 o'clock to go to the museum. But it was nice to actually eat lunch away from my computer, even if it was just at a different part of the dining room table. It is 5:30. I read for the last 30 minutes, got home from the art museum at 5, got there at 3:30, was out of the exhibit by 4:30. Been 3 hours in total of not working, even though I should have been working from 2 to 5 if I were to follow the French schedule. That didn't happen today. I thought I was gonna work right when I came back, and I then needed the break to read, but now I'm realizing I also need to nap, so I will update you after that happens. It is 8:16. I wound up sleeping until 7:30 because when my alarm went off at 6:30, I actually was really dizzy, which was strange. And then by the time I woke up, it was 7:30. I played some games on my phone, logic games, but that is actually against the advice that Jessica Brody gives in Page 1 to Done. This experiment is mainly about the French schedule, but I'm also trying to incorporate Page 1 to Done. I'll be making a longer vlog about that, but it'll be mixed in because I'm trying to make a new habit, multiple new habits, and I figured I'd start. But the art museum was fun. I think my mom and I were maybe expecting more from it based on what we had heard and also seen in ads and things like that, but it was fun. The best part of it was I got this. I think we all know why. I got a stuffed animal that I can cuddle. But it was also my favorite part of the exhibit was the like mystical guides where they had all these animals / creatures representing the different elements. It was very cool. So I got that. My mom got it for me as a gift, which was really nice. The time now is clearly after 5 p.m. I had considered working to make up for the time that I was out at the museum because that was during the French workday. Except the whole point of this experiment is that I stop working after 5 p.m. And so I think it's more in the spirit to not work the rest of the day. So I might do some crocheting. Definitely going to watch some second try stuff from the Try Guys, see what I've missed. Probably watch some old Kate Kavanaugh videos as well, just for extra inspiration. Not really sure yet, but yeah, that's where I am right now. And I suppose one could call this girl dinner. I've had it sometimes where I'm hungry but not super hungry, and I think I ate this at a reasonable time, which sometimes when I work a lot in a day, especially if I'm not stopping at 5 p.m., I will eat super late. So I'm actually pretty proud of myself of having a normal-ish schedule. I did end up going to bed at midnight though, which wasn't great. Editing Zara here. That was the end of my first day.
What surprised you about what I was able to get done versus what I wasn't? Or would you ever try this yourself? Let me know in a comment down below, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next vlog when it comes out.